A man was staring at me on my patio. He knocked one of the police officers out cold. Did I do the right thing? Okay, so this happened when I was around 9 years old, 25 now, and it's something I will never forget. It gives me goosebumps to this day. I live in a terraced house, 4 houses combined, and my neighbors and I each have our own little patio. There's a small road 10 meters from my yard where people do their Sunday walks and so on. Only a small fence separates my small yard and patio from that road. I live in a pretty crowded area, with several of these terraced houses spread around in my neighborhood, so seeing people walking on that road is pretty normal for me. Seeing random people standing on my patio is not. When I was 9, I usually got home from school about an hour before my mom got home from work. I live maybe 50 meters away from school, so my mom figured I was mature enough to be home alone for around an hour before she got home. This one day I got home from school. I did the usual thing, which was to make sure I locked the front door, and double-checked that the back door leading to the patio was also locked. I was 9, being alone was a little scary even though it was in the middle of the day and only for 1 hour. I then rushed to my room upstairs to play as much PlayStation as possible before my mom came home and made me do homework. While playing, I heard this noise coming from outside my window. My room was located 1 floor over the patio, with a view to the road I told you about before. It was kinda like the sound of a cat. But my cat had been missing for over 3 months. Hope sparked and I thought, OMG, did he finally come back? I ran downstairs to check if it was my cat, but the sight that met me gives me goosebumps just writing this. There was a guy standing on my patio. A tall guy with black hair covering half of his eyes, making him look like a male version of the Ring women or something. I could hear him making high-pitched sounds, almost like a cat meowing. A brown liquid was running down from his mouth, and I could see him spitting out my dad's stomped cigarettes. He was actually eating from the ashtray. I was frozen observing this, eventually snapped out of it and screamed so loud that the man must have heard it. He didn't react, he kept on eating from the ashtray. I ran upstairs to my room, locked the door and called my mom, who then called the cops. I've never been more terrified in my life. Laying in bed under my sheets, shivering with fear, as I hear these creepy high-pitched noises from the guy eating cigarette stomps from the ashtray on my patio. I kinda blacked out for a moment, because the next thing I remember is the police arriving on the road by my yard. I hear them talking to the guy saying stuff like, "What are you doing? Get over here or we will come down and arrest you," and so on. He didn't respond, but the high-pitched sounds was more frequent and louder. I decided to look through the window, feeling safe now that the cops were there. I could see 2 police officers standing by my fence, 1 man and a woman. I did not see the creepy man, however, because he was standing directly 1 story under me and my field of view. The police jumped the fence, and I remember hearing the creepy guy screaming louder than anything I've ever heard before. He charged the female police officer with full force, and he knocked her out cold. The male officer then immediately tased the guy, leaving him shaking on the ground, screaming still. The policeman struggled to keep him on the ground while putting handcuffs on him, but eventually made it. After a while he managed to wake up the female police officer, who seemed to be badly hurt. He called for backup and an ambulance, and then he sees me standing in the window above him. The expression on my face must have been something else, because he just looked at me and said, "I sure as hell hope you didn't see all that." I started to cry. By this time neighbors started to arrive, wondering what the hell was going on. One of my neighbors, an elderly woman, made me come down and she took care of me until my mom came back home. The police took the creepy guy with them in the car and left. Before they left they promised to come back and talk to us about what had happened. This is where the story takes an unexpected turn. The male police officer came back later that night and sat down with me and my mom to talk. He explained that the guy on my patio was actually diagnosed with severe autism. He had escaped a facility where mentally challenged people lived, located around 5 kilometers from where I live. He explained that the guy had actually been living in my house 5 years ago, but he had been forced to move when his mom, his only caretaker, died. The poor guy probably thought he would find his mom in my house. He missed the routines and he missed living there with his mom. The police had to move him from the house that time 5 years ago, because he was extremely strong. From what I heard, he had extreme tensions in the body because of the autism, making his muscles grow stronger and stronger throughout the years. This was the reason he reacted the way he did when the police came this day. Still frightened, I told the police officer that he needed to make sure this would never happen again. He promised it wouldn't. After a few sleepless nights my life got back to normal. The years went by and the guy didn't come back. Until 1 year ago. At this time my mom and dad had moved out, I bought the house from them and I'm still living there today. I was enjoying my morning coffee on the patio when I see this random guy stopping on the road by my fence. He just stands there, looking at me. I look at him and give him a nod. And then I hear the high-pitched noises. Holy shit, it's him. His hair had turned gray but the high-pitched sounds made me realize. My heart started racing and I instantly remembered the reason why he was back. I realized that he must have managed to escape again. Because I kept my cool a bit longer than when was 9, I started to realize how sorry I felt for the guy. 16 years later and he was back to look for his mom. I decided to carefully ask him if he wanted to come down to the patio. He instantly jumped the fence. I started to think he would knock me out like he did to that police officer. He didn't. He smiled. He looked at me and smiled. I offered him to sit down. He didn't respond. I offered him to come inside. He started laughing. We went inside. His face lit up, pure joy. He was home. It reminded him of the life he had with his mom. It almost made me tear up. All of a sudden he sat down in my couch, turned on my TV and switched directly to the cartoons. I observed him for a while, he was just completely focused on the cartoons. I just wanted him to enjoy the moment so I didn't say anything to him. I realized I had to call the facility to let them know. The caretakers arrived 10 minutes later. After a lot of convincing he got back up, crying, and they went back to the facility. I called the facility 2 days later. We made a deal. His name is Tom, and I now consider Tom my friend. Every Sunday from the day he returned, Tom and his caretakers visit me to watch cartoons. They say it's the highlight of his week. It makes my heart warm. Now, for several years my thoughts were, let's not meet, guy on my patio eating from the ashtray. Now my thoughts are, let's meet every Sunday to watch cartoons, my friend Tom. Now it's time for the next story. Story 2. Today I discovered that it's not okay to own a golden retriever if you're a human of my kind. Well, hopefully only for some people. Work was rough today and all I wanted to do afterward was to sit on the couch and let the TV watch me while eating food not cooked by my own hands. The answer to that? Delivery. Food ordered. I let the dog into the yard to burn some energy and sat camped outside with him while waiting for the delivery. DoorDash, Grubhub, Uber and everyone other than Jehovah's Witnesses has trouble locating my address, strictly relying on GPS, so it's nothing for me to post up and wait outside for when they are close, flag them down and go back inside for a contactless drop-off. Pertinent details before you know what hits the fan: my neighbor and I share a fence with a doggy door as our pups are super close, and you can bet each time that if my dog is outside, hers will follow for cross-yard playtime. This was the case today, and probably bad judgment on my part to think that I would be able to break up the fun quickly. Both dogs were in the neighbor's yard at the time the notification came through that the driver was pulling up, and I had to call out a few times to get my dog's attention. Neighbor thankfully whistled for her dog and I had to put on the voice for mine to acknowledge I existed, and then took off running for my door while waving to the driver, who by this point was getting out of the car. Pup and I have a game called Runaway where I will take off yelling, "Runaway," and literally he will chase after me like some human-sized fetch stick. I used this to my advantage until he realized I was putting him inside, but managed to get him through the storm door and close the screen before he could run out. Then realized that I'd left the gate locked like an idiot with the driver standing right outside by this point. I didn't have a mask on at this point and neither did she, so I yelled from the porch that she could leave the food by the mailbox, and that is where the fun started. "Is that your dog?" My bullshit meter didn't go off. I thought she was asking a question with an obvious answer because she was a dog person, so I engaged with dog owner gushiness. "Yes, blah, blah, blah. His name is XYZ. Wanna say hi? I'll be nice because you brought my food." But she just stood there awkwardly for a moment, put the food down and quickly jumped back into her car. In my mind I was like, okay, weird, but whatever. Snatched the food and went back inside. Went to wash my hands, and from the kitchen window, I can see the full street where she is still parked outside. Thinking, okay, weird, again, but didn't dwell on it too much, figuring that she was looking at the route to her next location. I went about my business of preparing to destroy my meal. Few minutes later, the dog begins barking manically at the door. I take a glance at the cameras and realize she is still out front parked directly in front of my mailbox. Okay? What's going on here? I go outside and try to get her attention, but she is on the phone and doesn't notice me. I walk up like I'm going to check the mail and she does pull off, but towards the back of the neighborhood that only has one way in and one way out. Lots of people make that mistake, and so you'll quickly see cars turning back around, but she never came back. By this time, I think I'm losing my mind, so I go back in, but still watching the street for the car to pass. It never does. I don't know, people are weird, so I just left it at that and went back to eat. About 10 minutes later, dog starts going ham at the door, so I check the cameras to see 2 police cars sitting outside my house. I continue to watch the cameras, realizing that yup, the cops are getting out of the car and walking back and forth in front of mine and neighbors' yards. I go out to see if anything is wrong, and they introduce themselves before saying they were called because a stolen golden retriever was reported at my address and if there was a dog in the home. It clicked that driver had called the police and then explained my version of what happened. They were really respectful and apologetic, but asked if I could get Sir Pup. I went ahead and opened the door for the dog, who took off, ready to greet the new faces outside. His collar has tags matching the address with my name and phone number on it in case he was ever lost or stolen, which was proof enough for them, as it was obvious that they wanted to get this over as fast as possible. No hard feelings on either side. We were all walking away when driver's car slowly comes creeping from the back of the neighborhood. I yelled out to them that the lady was right there, and they positioned themselves in front of her car in a way she would have to stop and speak with them. I don't know if this lady was drunk or off her meds, but she rolled down the window and was literally sobbing hysterically that she saw me take the dog from the neighbor's yard, that animals get no justice, and the icing on the cake. My kind only owns pit bulls and Rottweilers. There was no way he was mine and needed to be protected. I honestly did not want to deal with that mess, so sorry guys, this isn't a tale of revenge. I went back inside and stayed on my couch. My day was already shitty. Everyone left a few minutes after that, so I assume she got a warning. However, I did report the incident to the delivery service and was offered credits towards my next meal. I splurged that on a bakery, and now I'm currently finishing up a slice of carrot cake, grateful it didn't end worse. Let's listen to another story. Story 3. My boyfriend's mistress took a shower in our house while I was home. In May of 2018, I, 24 female, at the time started dating my high school sweetheart, 27 male, we will call him Calvin. I moved in with him shortly as he got honorable discharged from the Marines for medical reason. I moved out of my grandmother's house from Upper Marlboro, Maryland with him to Chase City, Virginia, to this plot of land that was about 4 to 5 hours away from family and friends. Anyway, with him being the only child, because he was adopted, his mother gave him his grandparents' property. They are no longer living and have passed on, so it was just me, him and my 4-year-old son and 87.5 acres of land. The property has 2 ponds on it with a very long driveway with a lot of trees, wildlife, and space to start a new life and have a family on, or so I thought. The house was a single story with 3 bedrooms, with one of the bedrooms, master bedroom, having a full bathroom and a guest bathroom, full, and a section of the house which we called the trophy room. Just FYI, his grandfather used to be a big game hunter. This room had animals mounted all over the place with boxes of bullets everywhere. This room had a door that could be locked for child safety reason. There was a 2-way garage that was connected to the washer and dryer room that led to a separate section of the house we call the apartment. It had its own small kitchen, full bathroom with only one way out, a sliding patio door that led back to this 2-way garage. Behind the house was one huge barn where he kept everything needed to keep the property clean, like cutting the grass and maintaining the driveway. Also keep in mind we were living in the middle of nowhere in a small town where everyone knows everyone. Anyways, 2 years in our relationship goes by, we have our ups and downs. I have caught him cheating before, but this one tops the cake. So around this time I had just left my job working with Tractor Supply because his hours and mine's conflicted, and I decided to be a at-home mom and take care of the animals and keep the house clean, you know, normal mom/girlfriend stuff. We had 19 chickens, 8 ducks and 5 cats and a ball python. Most of the cats were outdoor cats. And most of the time I cooked dinner which he never ate and cleaned the whole house, which I was never thanked for, and kept the jungle under control until he got home. Around this time, he recently decided to be a firefighter. This was around March of 2020 and had to attend a meeting. It was about 4:30ish p.m. and he came back home around 7ish p.m. We lived really close to town, about 5 to 10 minutes away, which is where the firehouse is. Me still having trust issues with him, he decided to give me his captain's number to contact if I could reach him, and his meeting was supposed to be only an hour long, when he returned it was dark outside and he came in with the biggest smile on his face. Started up a conversation with me that had me all happy and gritty and chatty as we were talking. He asked me to help him with a project, of course I decided to help. While playing Animal Crossing on my Switch and doing his small project that he asked me to help with, I noticed he left out the side door to the two-way garage to do something. 5 minutes goes by, he came back into the house leaving the light on in the garage and in the laundry room. I thought it was weird because he tends to keep the lights off so the electric bill won't be so high. I then remembered I have to get the chickens and ducks more food. I asked to use the car to go to Tractor Supply. He agreed. I got dressed and left out. Upon getting in the car, it was a 2016 Subaru Outback BTW. I noticed a box in the back seat. I'm always leaving stuff in the car, so I thought it was mine's cause it had a few things in it that looked like it wasn't his. My phone was turned off at the time. Went to the store. It was a 30-minute drive there and a 30-minute drive back from the South Hill area where the Tractor Supply was. As I was pulling up to the house driving down this long-ass driveway and parking the car, I noticed the front door was wide open, the porch light was on, all the lights in the living room was on, including the kitchen light, and both sides of the two-way garage was open with those lights as well. I came into the house and asked Calvin to get the food out for me cause those bags was heavy as hell. I asked why all the light was on. He said someone was here waiting for their friend to pick them up. I assumed it was the roommate's friend who was renting out the apartment. We will call him Dylan. Dylan and his girlfriend went out with her 3 kids, so I was confused on who this friend was, not paid close attention to who this mystery person was. I went outside to feed the animals, did a few chores around the house and decided to take a shower and freshen up to finish gaming and relaxing for the night. After I got dressed and dried my hair, I opened our bedroom door and walked in the hallway, closed the door behind and see a small skinny 5 foot 6 feet tall girl come out our guest bathroom. The hallway light wasn't on, so I didn't get a good look at her. As I walk up to her, passing her, she says, "I like your nose ring." I reply thanks. As I take a seat on the couch, I notice Calvin and this girl make eye contact as she leave for the garage. I ask Calvin, "Was that who you was talking about?" He says, "Yeah, that's Mary. She is waiting on Dylan's best friend to pick her up, maybe for drugs or something, I don't know." I shrugged it off. It's crazy how us women know when our boyfriends are doing stupid shit. It was like a bad sinking feeling in my stomach. The very next day me and Calvin spent the day together because he was off, so we decided to watch a movie and cuddle on the couch. He fell asleep and I noticed he hid his phone between the couch cushion between me and him, so I played it off and got up to use the bathroom and left him on the couch. I waiting about 20 minutes or so before I put my plan into motion. I crawled on the floor like I was a secret agent and slowly took his phone. I am very smart when it comes to phones and computers, and found out he had Verizon. And if you must know, if you download the Verizon Messenger app on your phone, which is free, you can see all deleted and new messages on anyone's phone, but they need to have Verizon in order to use it. Anyways, I downloaded the app and put his number in, which sent a verification number that I had to put in to even see his messages. Then deleted the verification text messages off his phone and gave him back his phone and went through every message from my phone. This is where the story gets really hot. When I went to get food for the animals, remember when I said he was out longer than he was supposed to be for his firefighter meeting? The reason it took longer than it was supposed to was because he went to pick Mary up from her place to bring her back to our place, and he played it off like she got dropped off by someone, cause I had the car to go to the store. He had her get out the car as soon as he got home, told her to go around the house to wait for him at the back door. There is a separate door you can go through in the two-way garage. The stuff that was in the back seat in that box was her stuff. While I was gone, he let her in while I was gone and had sex with her in our roommate's space on his bed and continued to text her while I was in the same room as him. I confronted him, showing him the proof. Waking up from his nap, he was confused, and I explained what I found, how I knew, and like most cheaters do, he lied to my face. I almost lost my cool and pulled a knife out of him, but at that point I lost faith in him. I packed all my stuff that same night, and as he was about to drive me home, not even 5 minutes away from the house, we pulled over and talked, deciding to take a break. So, I packed a few things and he dropped me off to spend a week with my mom. We swapped phones. That was his way of proving he wouldn't talk to her no more, but you already know where this about to go. Him being dumb as hell, he forgot I had his phone, so even if his password for his Snapchat or any of his social media changed, I could change them to see what he was doing. As I looked at his snap, he had unblocked her, and that bitch was staying the night at our place cuddling with my cats in my bed. She sent pictures to him, so I decided to pretend to be him and asked if she was still there, and she said she was. I called Dylan's girlfriend by phone. We will call her Rachel. We are still close friends to this day. I asked her to go over to the house to see if anyone was there. She said she didn't see anyone, but she texted me and told me she was in the house lying in our bed. I messaged her threatening to call the police. She left the house, and yes, I was sad, I cried, and I was angry. He was the worst of the worst, and I wouldn't wish to be cheated on, not on my worst enemy. To this day he is single, none of his friends talk to him anymore, and he always tries to text me pretending to be my friend cause he could never have anyone better, and me as of right now, in an amazing relationship with someone who respects me and my son. I have a job, my own place and a car, and also planning on getting married in October of 2024.